Hey everybody, this is GGB. Today we're going to be talking about our first episode of the upset of the day. We have many games because it's the first day of college basketball. I hope you guys are excited as I am. Let's get through all these really quick and I'll provide my analysis afterwards. We'll just go through them. These are all the ranked matchups today, by the way. Many ranked matchups. I think if not every single top 25 team is playing, almost every single top 25 team is playing. 3:30 got Mount St. Mary's traveling to number 4 Villanova. Villanova favored by 24.5 points on FS1. 5 o'clock we get Akron traveling to number 17 Ohio State. Ohio State favored by 16.5 points on ESPN2. 5:30 we got Central Connecticut traveling to number 24 UConn. UConn favored by 32 in that game. 6 o'clock we got one of the closer games of the week. Number 3 Kansas playing on a neutral field against Michigan State. Kansas favored by 4 points on ESPN. 6 o'clock we got Siena traveling to number 23 St. Bonaventure. St. Bonaventure favored by 20.5 points on ESPN+. 6 o'clock with Bellarmine traveling to number 7 Purdue. Purdue favored was 21.5 on Big Ten Network Plus. 6 o'clock we had Texas Southern traveling to number 13 Oregon minus 21 Pac Network. 6 o'clock Quinnipiac traveling to number 21 Maryland minus 22 Big Ten Network Plus. 6 o'clock Loyola Maryland traveling to number 19 UNC minus 22 ACC Network. 6 o'clock UT Martin traveling to number 18 Tennessee minus 35 SEC Network. 7 o'clock Morehead State traveling to number 22 Auburn minus 16 SEC Network Plus minus slash ESPN Plus. 7 o'clock Mercer traveling to number 16 Arkansas minus 20 SEC Network Plus slash ESPN Plus. 7 o'clock Tennessee Tech traveling to number 12 Memphis minus 28 ESPN Plus. 7 o'clock Jackson State traveling to number 11 Illinois minus 30.5 Big Ten Network. 7 o'clock Hofstra traveling to number 15 Houston minus 19.5 ESPN Plus. 8 o'clock Louisiana Tech traveling to number 14 Alabama minus 12.5 SEC Network. 8 o'clock Navy traveling to number 25 Virginia minus 14.5 ACC Network. 8 o'clock Houston Baptist traveling to number 5 Texas minus 34.5 Longhorn Network. 8 o'clock Dixie State traveling to number 1 Gonzaga minus 42 RSNW. 8:30 we got number 10 Kentucky traveling neutral court against number 9 Duke. Duke favored by 1 point on ESPN. 10 o'clock we got Bakersfield traveling to number 2 UCLA. As you can see, obviously there's a lot of games that are going to be blowouts, right? Only two spreads are in the single digits. So let's talk about those two games real quick. Obviously, the 6 o'clock one, number 3 Kansas versus Michigan State, is going to be very close. Even though Michigan State is not in the top 25, right? We know that Tom Izzo is going to bring his A game, especially against a top 5 competitor like Kansas. Like, honestly, he's going to want to start his team off with a win. Obviously, Michigan State is one of the better teams in the Big Ten every single year. It wasn't that long ago. I think it was only like the 2019 March Madness where they were a Final Four team, right? So it wasn't all that long ago. This was a top-tier team. Obviously, they were going to have a good 2020 and then 2021. They were going to have a good 2020 March Madness, 2021 March Madness. Unfortunately, didn't go all that well for them. I remember they were a team that fought back. They fought through adversity at the beginning of the year, did not start off the season well. Then they ended up coming back, ended up winning a whole bunch of games straight, ended up getting into that March Madness, but unfortunately losing a play-in game against, I believe, UCLA. So, I mean, like, UCLA ended up making it to the Final Four. They gave UCLA a game. I feel like actually, looking back on it, that was not a bad loss by any means by Michigan State. Honestly, should have had that game, weirdly enough. Had a big lead in the fourth, ended up giving it away to UCLA. And imagine if Michigan State ends up winning that game, how much different that March Madness bracket is on that side. Maybe a lot of people's brackets aren't completely busted like they were. So it's interesting. Michigan State Spartans are a pretty good pretty good basketball team this year. Also, pretty good football team. But that's beside the point. Kansas, again, we're expecting them to be a top tier team. Like they weren't that last year, right? They were not a top tier team. They were a good team, but they did not make it that far in March Madness. These are two teams that had a disappointing 2021 March Madness. They're hoping to bounce back this year into going into 2022 March Madness. We'll see how that works out for them. Only one of them can win week 1. And then obviously you got the 1-point spread, 8:30 game, number 10 Kentucky on neutral field against number 9 Duke. Obviously, that's going to be my upset of the day, right? I got to pick Kentucky to beat Duke. I mean, it's just like, it's right there. It's not very often where I get to pick a 1-point spread, where this is basically a pick'em game. I don't love that I have to pick Kentucky, because Kentucky had a bad year last year. I feel like we can all agree on that fact. And while they did get a whole bunch of talent this year, got some good transfers in, got some new good freshmen, like, there's a lot to like about Kentucky. I'm not sold on Kentucky yet, because the product they had last year was abysmal. Now, I understand you got to give the fact that it's Kentucky. They're going to be better, right, this year. I would love to see a little bit more before I make that assumption. And then I also don't understand why Duke is top 10. I understand it is Duke. It is Coach K's last year. They're Duke. But again, Duke also had a bad year last year. Is it just me that remembers last year? I understand they have the repertoire that, like, you can forget about. Like, you can count that as a down year. I still feel like it's going to count a little bit. So those are two teams I don't know if should be in the top 10, but I do think Kentucky's going to be my upset of the day. And then games I think are a little bit under everyone's radar, but I would end up watching if I had these channels. Morehead State traveling to number 22 Auburn is interesting, because again, Auburn's favored by only 16 points in this game, right? I said only 16 points, but like, again, this was a Morehead State team that made the playoffs last year. They were a March Madness team, and they ended up, I believe they were a 14 seed. They gave a 3 seed some trouble, if I remember correctly. So, I mean, it's really interesting. And you had Auburn, who didn't even make the March Madness bracket last year, but understand Bruce Pearl's an amazing head coach. He's going to get his team better this year. But I think that's going to be a game that if I had the SEC Network Plus or ESPN Plus, I would end up watching that basketball game, because I think it's an interesting game with how good Morehead State already was. Like, they were a March Madness team last year. I feel like they deserve a little bit more respect. Another one I think is relatively interesting is Louisiana Tech traveling to number 14 Alabama. The fact that the spread is really kind of low is it's kind of interesting, simply because I don't remember Louisiana Tech being that good last year. I don't know. I wasn't intently following Conference USA basketball, so that could 100% be on me. Maybe Louisiana Tech was really good, but they didn't make the March Madness bracket last year. North Texas did, out of Conference USA. And it's interesting because Alabama was an elite. Oh, wait, was that? Were they? No, they were a Sweet 16 team. Ended up getting knocked off by UCLA in the Sweet 16. So this was a good Alabama team last year, and I think this is a possibility of being an even better Alabama team, which is why it's confusing to me that Louisiana Tech's only 12.5-point underdogs. Regardless, I think this is going to be an interesting game to watch, because apparently the bet spreaders think Louisiana Tech's a good team this year. I haven't been following Louisiana Tech basketball intently, so I mean, I'll trust them. I think this could possibly be a good game. And then 8 o'clock, Navy traveling to number 25 Virginia. Virginia favored by 14.5 points on ACC Network. I don't know if you guys remember this last year, but there's one thing you can count on for Virginia. It's them losing to a team that's at a conference. They were pretty good ACC-wise, but just, like, god-awful everywhere else. I don't know if you remember this. It got knocked out last year by Ohio from the MAC. Not good against lower conference teams. I believe they had a double overtime game with, I can't remember who last year. I believe it was also another MAC team. Again, Virginia has had trouble last year beating teams out of conference, so it'll be interesting. Navy is an out-of-conference team. Sure, they get it at home. But like, this is a Virginia team that also started out last year in the top 25, I believe top 15 even, and they ended up losing a game. Who was it again? It might have been San Francisco last year, and it just started their out of conference. They played horribly. We'll see if that carries over. Not to mention that Navy has a pretty solid. They were good last year. They were a good basketball team. Ended up not, but they were 1 or 2 seed, I believe. They were a top seeded team and ended up getting upset last year in that Patriot League conference. But regardless, it was a very, very good basketball team last year. It was very interesting to watch. I think that's an interesting game if you're going to watch a game like that. Obviously, all these teams are interesting to watch simply because they are all ranked and all pretty good this year. So it'll be interesting to watch them for those reasons. But outside of that, I don't expect there to be any great games that I'm missing here. I talked about all the games I would watch. Just going to lock it in. My upset is Kentucky over Duke. Obviously, it's the one I'm going to pick, considering all the other ones. Outside of Kansas, Michigan State, this was a no-brainer. Normally I do, I think 4 points. Wait, was it 4 points? Yeah, I think it was 4 points. I gotta get 4 points in a week if you don't know. You get half a point if there's no upsets in a day, 1 point if I get an upset correctly, and 1.5 points if it was the biggest upset of the day. So hoping for me, just Kentucky beats Duke and there's no other upsets that day. But I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try and hit that 4 points margin. No, I have one less day than I used to because normally I do Monday too, so it'll be a little bit more difficult here. But I'm gonna pick Kentucky to beat Duke here, and I think I'm gonna get it. I just don't know what else to say about that. Give me the Wildcats over those Blue Devils.